to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Shawn, and this is part 5 of our top 100 favorite board games of all time series. That sounds awfully bombastic, but this time we are counting down from number 60 to number 51.
If you've been watching and following along, thank you so much. And you might notice a difference for this one. We just got a brand new camera on the weekend, and so this is the first time we're trying it out with video.
Yeah, if you watched our Meadow review, that's our first try at the photo side of things. So let us know if you noticed any difference in that even. And please also, it'd be great if you have any feedback on, do you like this camera better? Do you like how it was before? I really hope you like this camera better because it cost us some money. So please do let us know though. And yeah, let's get rolling with this one. So I think I was first last time, if I remember.
Yep, so it's over to me to start things off this time.
60.
My number 60 is Honey Buzz. Honey Buzz, I love the theme of. For this one, you are a bee that is collecting honey to fulfill the forest creature's orders for it. And everything about this game is gorgeous. The honey is kind of soft and squishy.
Yeah, I love it's not just squishy, but it's like tacky squishy.
Yeah, it has a really good feel to it. And then the cards that you're using to fulfill the forest creature's orders, all of those look gorgeous. Your workers are actual little honeybees that you put out. So it is a worker placement game. And in this game, you put your bees out and you collect your honeycomb tile. And each of those honeycomb tiles have an action on it. And you build out your beehive. Once you have a completed hexagon, then you're able to do all the actions that are there. So it's a light medium game, but because you have to decide what patterns you might want and which actions you might want to complete when, there is a little bit more to it than you might think.
Yeah, it's I missed this on my list. This is one when like you saying it right now, I thought, oh man, I just forgot to add this game. It's fairly recent for us, but honestly, it's not even that. We've had it for a few months, so I've got no excuse. This is a great game. It should be on my list. I really like it. It looks nice, and it feels nice.
Yeah, and that's my number 60.
My number 60, this is another newish, just really nice, kind of shiny and new game. This is Tidal Blades. And Tidal Blades, honestly, the look almost turned me off of it at first because it's so pretty, and I saw like the Kickstarter had a lot of plastic and a lot of kind of things to it, a lot of bells and whistles, and I thought, oh, is there going to be a lot of substance under that style? And we did buy it. We bought the retail version though, which is a little bit more cardboardy. It's still real flashy.
Yeah.
It's not quite as flashy.
But it looks great.
It does. It looks super nice. And the good news is it's also actually a really fun game. And it's a kind of a dice collector / dice chucker. When you collect up your dice, you can actually level them up.
Yeah.
So you can get them stronger and stronger and stronger, which ups your odds all the time. And it's not quite, it's kind of a worker placement game, but you've got one worker, you've got your dude, and they move around, and then they kind of leave a little thing where they've been. And so you do these trials, which just use your dice, and you fight these monsters, which spend your dice, and then you're also trying to upgrade your dice, and you're also trying to impress this judge, and there's a lot of things going on here. But I love the theme, and I love kind of just the ocean style of it all. And it's not a game I would usually think I like, but I really like it.
Yeah, the look of this is great. And then it also has another element you didn't mention of skills that you're also have an opportunity to up. So deciding which skills you use, which might be different depending on who your starting person is, also changes the game a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but it also isn't that complicated. It's kind of, as you can see, a little bit hard to describe, but well worth trying out. And it feels weird to say, but don't be turned off by it being too pretty, because it just is pretty and also it's fun. And that was my number 60.
My number 59 is Paladins of the West Kingdom. So this is part of the West Kingdom series, and this is the second one in the series. In my opinion, I think this one would be the heaviest of the three.
Yeah.
And so for this one, you have paladins that you are, and each of your paladins give you a unique ability that you can use for that round. So you pick your paladin for the round, and you get different workers, and then you use those different workers. So different colors lets you put it on your individual boards in different ways to do actions. And a lot of people may describe this as multiplayer solitaire, which I think is very accurate. I mean, once we have our cards out and we've grabbed our workers, it's very much just looking down and seeing what you can do. But it has a really nice puzzle element of trying to extend your turn of how much can you do. Because if you are able to maybe build a fortress, that might give you an additional worker that you can then use. And so I'm totally okay with multiplayer solitaire, and I think this one does it really well.
Yeah, I like people say multiplayer solitaire about games like it's a knock, and I'm like, no, that sounds great to me. I like it especially when I'm really building something and I'm doing a puzzle like this, that other people aren't going to mess up my puzzle. I like that, but there is still like a little bit of interaction just in like the places that you're going and the things that you're doing can get in the way of other folks. But really you get to do your own thing, and this game's hard enough. It's tricky enough and thinky enough. I don't need someone messing around with me.
Top of it, yeah. And that's my 59.
My number 59 is Maracaibo, and this is designed by Alexander Pfister. He's one of our favorite designers, and it is a rondel game. So if you know Great Western Trail, like if you don't know this one, but you know Great Western Trail, it's got a similar-ish, you're moving along a path, and the different places that you stop are going to have different actions for you. And in this one, you're a boat. And so you're moving your boat around, and you've got different actions, and then you're collecting up cards that are crew members / kind of agents. It's also a campaign game, although I will note that the campaign is the worst written campaign of any campaign I have ever played. But the campaign does work interestingly in that it changes the board all the time. There's a lot going on here. But it's a really cool game, and I understand Pfister is actually re-theming it and is going to re-release it because the mechanics are great. The theme, definitely not for everybody. The mechanics are fantastic, though. So it's going to be really cool to see what happens with the new theme.
Yeah, I really enjoy this one of everything that you said. And there's another element that Pfister uses from some of his other games too, of the cards being multi-purpose.
Yeah.
So you have to decide if you want to keep your card and then spend it to give it you that ability, or you want to also spend your cards for an icon it has on it to kind of free up your board. So there is a lot, but after that first read through, we actually didn't have to look at the rules too much.
Yeah, it really isn't. It's complex, but only once.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like, all right, cool. I get this, and it's fun and really mechanically sound and interesting game. And that is my 59.
My 58 is a very light game. This is Draftosaurus. So in this game, you are drafting dinosaurs. You're reaching your hand into this bag and you're pulling out these fantastic meeple dinosaurs and you're putting them on your board. When I first got this, I was a little bit let down. I thought it might be a little bit more maybe along the lines of Dinosaur Island. But once I kind of rethought about it and thought of it more as a roll and write, it almost has that feel to it of instead of checking a box, you actually get to put an amazing physical dinosaur on it. It was fantastic. It's dinosaurs, which I love, and takes like 15 minutes to play.
Yeah, if that, I don't know why you thought it was dinosaur. It's called Draftosaurus.
I don't know why
either. It's just a bag of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I love this from the very first because I absolutely love dinosaurs. And we got the 2 expansions too, which I think both add something to it, but I think the plesiosaurs are like a little bit better than the pterodactyls.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can just play this over and over and over, and you're totally right with the roll and write. It feels like a roll and write in which you are neither rolling nor writing.
Yeah, that's about the level of that it is. And that's my 58.
My number 58. This is a Shem Phillips game, and you just had one on your list, and we're fans of both of his series. And this one is Explorers of the North Sea. So, Explorers of the North Sea, part of the first trilogy, the North Sea trilogy, obviously. And I actually like this one. I know this is a bit of a controversial opinion, but I actually like this one more than I like Raiders of the North Sea, because I love exploring islands. And I said this when you had this on your list, that Wind Waker is my favorite Zelda game, and this makes me think of that a little bit. Just taking out your boat, exploring the different islands, leaving your dudes in different places so that they can, build their buildings and stuff, and picking up the animals and bringing them back. And we've got the expansion as well, which adds like a whole other level to this, because you don't have to come all the way back as much, so you can keep going out, and your whole map is even bigger. And I love how this looks. I'm such a fan of tile placement because I like building out. And this one does it really well.
You end up with a really cool thing at the end, a communal one, because you're both exploring the same islands in the same area. And you're right, the expansion really did raise this up in my thoughts as well.
In the communal, it makes it, you're competing for those islands too. It can get cutthroat.
Yeah.
But it's great. And that's my number 58.
57.
My number 57 is a lot heavier than my previous game. This is on Mars. So this is a Vital Lacerda game. It's right over here. Yeah, it has a great look to it. It takes place on Mars, and you're trying to make Mars habitable. And there's lots of things that you need to do, and you have slightly different goals that you might be trying to accomplish each turn. I love the theme, and there's a lot of science to it. It makes it a bit complex, but I really like to build the greenhouses, for example. You need to spend water, because that makes sense. So it's usually you think you have to just spend the element that you need more of, but you need water to grow the plants, you need oxygen to make the domes that the people live in. So everything's connected in that way. And it has the additional element of you can only go in either on the surface of Mars, or you take the shuttle to do the stuff at the space station. And so you've got to decide when the shuttle's leaving, whether you're going to take it and go do actions on the other side, or if you're going to stay, but you could be staying for a while depending on when that shuttle's coming back.
Yeah, there's a lot of planning. It is cool, like you say, that I think it is kind of based in the thinking, what would the steps be if you were terraforming Mars? So it's a little less silly than terraforming Mars is, because of the science. It's real thing. It's real heavy.
It is really heavy. So some games I kind of feel like I didn't get anywhere, but then some days it clicks, and the times that it clicks, it's really worthwhile. So I love the theme of this. I love the look of that. And so my number 57 was on Mars.
My number 57 is Merv. And it's funny that yours was a Vital Lacerda game, because Merv feels like it's like a Vital Lacerda light. And it's a beautiful game. It's from Osprey Games, and we generally like the games that they put out.
It's also by Ian O'Toole for the art, like on Mars.
Oh, it is, yeah, which explains why it's beautiful. Yeah, all his artwork's always great. And it's based on this ancient city of Merv. And you're doing all of these different, you've got a moss track, and you've got camels, and you've got trading, and you've got... Yeah, so you've got all of these different segments that you're kind of moving between. But it's got this really cool mechanic of the central board, where you're putting down buildings in the middle of the board, which kind of influence what actions you can take, but also how strong those actions are and what cubes you get. And they can also like give other players resources depending on where they place their things, which is really, it's this kind of like cool other layer to it that I really enjoy, and it just looks great.
And for 2-player, it's an additional layer, because you can activate any building in that row or column, and it doesn't even have to be your own. But for 2-player, you have a dummy player that you place. And so the placement of where that goes might totally change, because your opponent might purposely put it and block you, whereas normally they wouldn't do that, because they would just go where they had the most buildings and not worry too much about what you were doing.
Yeah, and it affects because your turn priority decides who gets to place the dummy, or who gets to choose either his row or his column. which I kind of really like the 2. I don't know of another game that uses a dummy player in that way, and it's really an interesting kind of extra little bit of strategy. But that is my number 57.
56.
My 56, I'm going back to a lighter game, is Colt Express. So Colt Express is it takes place in the wild, wild west, and you have these characters and you're bandits on a train and you're trying to get as most treasure as you can. The fantastic mechanic for this is you have your hand of cards and everyone plays their cards down. Sometimes they're visible, sometimes they're not. And then at the end of the round, you then go through and do the actions. So it can be really, really tricky to remember even where you are, let alone where all of your opponents are. And we have a really fun way of playing this 2-player where we're each playing 3 characters, and it gets to be a whole mess where one of our characters is punching another one of our characters, and it's super fun.
This is our first match.
Yours is as well.
Yeah. This is our first out of how many have we gone through now? I don't want to do math, but this is our first one that matches. My 56, also Colt Express, and I love it. It's mayhem, especially because like you're saying, we house rule this and we never house rule games, but we didn't love the 2-player way. You're supposed to mix the 2 decks in this way that, I don't know, didn't really work for us. So, and then we thought, okay, we're going to use like 2 characters each at first, but we'll make everyone fight everyone. But we totally didn't. We totally cheated and tried not to shoot our own people. So we were like, all right, forget that. Now we're just going to we're teams of 3. It grew up to teams of 3, and we're just teams. And then we add all the treasures together. I think you said that at the end. But yeah, it's because it is that programming of putting out the cards, and because it's, you got 6 characters, and sometimes they go like boom, 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 and sometimes they go down the line and then they loop back. We can never remember what anyone's doing, so it's always a surprise. And the number of times we punch a jewel out of our friend's hand,
or end up on the roof on the first turn and totally forget that, and so the rest of the turn is wasted for that character.
Especially because when you do 3 characters, it's like, what was I doing with that guy? I don't know. And then you just run right into the marshal, and it's crazy. And we actually, because we got it during lockdown, we haven't played it with multiple players. I imagine it's amazing with multiple players, but even with 2, if you just play them like separate characters, and as a team, trust me, it's so much fun. That was also my 56.
55.
My number 55 is A Wonderful World. This has a great look to it. It's a relatively simple card game, but I would say probably more light medium weight, not lightweight, because there is a little bit more to it. You start off with card drafting, so you pass your cards and try and decide which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to discard. And then from those ones, you are building an engine to produce cubes to get more cards. For this one, it's only 4 rounds, so it's really difficult to decide the long-term plan of, like, right now I'm not producing any blue, but this one's going to be worth a lot of points, so I'm just going to put this out now and hope I can get it later.
Yeah, I love the dystopian theme, because I'm just a huge fan of anything dystopian YA. We read a lot of that. And there is a little bit of asymmetry, because you've got your starting card that is going to give you, it just changes your starting resources, and it changes one of your point scoring goals. And it doesn't look like a lot, but it really does make a pretty big difference too. So this is one we've been playing a lot.
Yeah, and we've got the expansions for it as well, so that got us to play even more so. Mm-hmm. And so that was my number 55.
My number 55 is Hive, and Hive it's these little bakelite tiles, and so you can play it anywhere because there's no board. And each tile has a different insect on it, and each insect moves in a slightly different way. So you've got spiders that can move like 3 spaces around the outside, kind of turning and creepily. You've got ants that can move to anywhere. You've got your queen bee that can only move 1. So it's very chess-like in that way. But it's chess in this like abstract kind of free form. It's like jazz chess with insects. And I just love everything about it.
This has a great theme. I love the insects. It is not on my list.
No.
And that is because when I had played it, Shawn was quite experienced. He had already been playing it for years. And it just took me a while to figure it out. So I had to get through a lot of games of losing. And now I'm getting closer to the stage of being able to win maybe 15% of the time. So I think once that percentage win goes up a bit, I think I will like this game more.
This is what she would always say about it. I think you win kind of half the times of the last few times that we've played.
Oh, maybe I'm just factoring in all those previous losses then.
So I'm always trying to tell her, no, you're better at this than you think. Please play it with me more. But really, Hive it's just fantastic. So that is my number 55.
My number 54 is Unmatched. And this is another one I'm kind of grouping a lot of games into one. My favorite of them is Cobble and Fog. So that's the newest one that we have. And in this one, we always play just the 2 of us. There are some ways that you can play with 3, but it's a 1 versus 1. So you have heroes from fiction and from movies. So in Cobble and Fog, you've got Invisible Man and Sherlock Holmes and Dracula. And so these great characters, and they're your hero. And some of them will come with a sidekick, or some of them will come with minions. And you use your cards to battle it out and try and get down to 0. And so this is a combat game that I really like because of the asymmetry between the characters and how they play. And it's different than something like Villainous, where the only thing you're trying to do with Unmatched is fight the other person. It's not like you have this other goal and someone keeps getting in your way.
Right. Well, they get in your way of you because you want to beat them.
And
so
they
get in
beat
their
you,
way
yeah.
But I like this one because it's based on the same system as Star Wars Epic Duels. And me and my friends loved Star Wars Epic Duels. And I was so glad when they brought back that system, especially with Cobble and Fog. Yeah, agreed. That's my favorite too. But also the Jurassic Park ones and so many of the characters that are in it. And it's just a really fun, like 1 versus 1, just head-to-head card battle. And
yeah, we've had some pretty epic tournaments of mixing and matching. So that was my number 54.
My number 54, and the second dinosaur one on the list, which makes this a great list, is Dinosaur Island. And I like anything that is dinosaurs. If it's got dinosaurs, I'm almost certainly going to enjoy it. And that was the case with Dinosaur Island. Although I will say that, okay, so when I bought Dinosaur Island, this is one of those ones that I saw the Kickstarter and I thought, should I? And then I didn't. And then later I bought the base and the expansion really close together. And the expansion didn't come with the blue dinosaurs I thought it would come with. And that really, usually I don't have that like, oh, I missed this thing and I'm sad about it, but I really wanted those blue dinosaurs. And so it took me a little bit to get past that.
Yeah.
But now I do really like it. I've moved past the blue dinosaur situation. And I'm fine with just using the pink ones, whatever. But it really is a cool worker placement, and you're building your park. It's very Jurassic Park-y. You're building your park, and people get eaten, and you're researching dinosaurs, and you're adding them to your pens. And it moves quicker than you'd think, really. We find we play the long game now because that seems to be about the right
Yeah, the short
right
game's
length.
very, very short.
It is, yeah, but it's I've really learned to love this game.
Yeah, I'm surprised this one's not on my list. I think this is like the other one for you where somehow I just missed it because I do love that science element of collecting the DNA and spending that for dinosaurs. And the expansion, we don't necessarily use all the modules, and we certainly don't use them all at once, but it's been really fun to kind of introduce a module and play with that one and then play with a different one another time.
Yeah, the executive's the best, and it comes with a little kind of like Dr. Hammond. Is that Richard Attenborough?
Yeah, Meeple
As well. So that is my number 54.
My number 53 is Red Rising. This was announced a few months before the game release, and that it was based on the IP of Red Rising, which is a book series. I hadn't heard of it before, neither had Shawn, so we picked up the trilogy. And before the game arrived, I read through the first 3 books, got the next 2, and read through them. So already it was this experience that I was invested in. And the game itself, I really like how it plays. It doesn't really take place in the world. You're not playing out the game series, but it uses characters from the game. And throughout the game, you're putting the cards down to get certain effects and then collecting them up and hoping to gather a set that combo really well together. And having read the books, those combinations are great because you understand why a certain character might want to be paired with someone or why they wouldn't.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple, just like play a card, take a card. Which I guess is also in fantasy realms. A lot of people compare the 2 games, and it's pretty openly, I think, based on that, but we haven't played fantasy realms. But I think it really helps that we read the books. I only read the first 3 because the first one's terrific. And then, I don't know, they drop a little, and by the time I got to 4, I was like, probably good, but it really helps to know those characters. I think that makes a big difference. And there's another one that didn't end up on my list, and I'm kind of like, this really should be on my list.
Yeah, having played it a lot, we're really familiar with the cards, so it only takes us about 20 minutes as well, so I really like that about this being able to be a relatively quick game. That was my number 53.
My number 53 is Marvel United, and Marvel United, super light game. You can play this with kids. It comes with a lot of little plastic dudes, and I didn't do this Kickstarter, which I think is kind of a theme. This is like games I missed in Kickstarter and got later. But I didn't do the Kickstarter. And then when they announced the X-Men one, I'm a crazy X-Men fan, so I was like fully on board there and very excited to get a multiple man. That's my all-time fave for any X-Men nerds out there. But I was really into that. So then I kind of went back and picked up a few of the sets from the first one, and it was really a surprise. It's light, but it's fun. It's just like you play a card, and your card does either punches or moves or does like a heroic effect. It just has like 3 symbols, plus sometimes they've got like a special thing that maybe they do, but it's super simple, but it's totally different for the different villains that you play. And there's some really cool ones, especially Sinister Six, really fun to play against.
Yeah, and the villains I think make the biggest difference because the hero cards do play a little differently, but some of the villains are so different. And so that gets us playing it again and again, and it's a co-op. So I love that it's the 2 of us against the bad guy.
Yeah, the heroes honestly are pretty interchangeable, but if I can have like the 70 X-Men or whatever are coming, give me more X-Men. I'm excited. So that was my 53.
My 52 is Calico. So this is a tile placement game, and in it you are building a quilt. But it's a bit challenging. You have your own goal tiles, so you want to make sure the pattern matches them and the colors match them. And then cats, of course, there's 3 cats that come out every time, and they have their own preferences. Cats can be very picky, and there's different buttons that you put out. So it's a really fun puzzle because you only have a few tiles to pick from that you can maybe use the next turn, and you have to try and maybe give up one goal to complete the other one. And every time I do this, I think, I think my score can be better next time.
Yeah, it is impossible to get all of the goal tiles. It's possible, I guess, but it is incredibly unlikely because you have to get all the patterns and all the colors just right and draft just right and not have anyone steal what you want. So you kind of have to, it's kind of like cat quilt triage where you're just kind of doing the immediate thing you need to do. But it is great, and the cats kind of have their own like personality. They have little stories about them in the book, and which is a nice little touch.
Yeah, and it looks really nice. That's my number 52.
My number 52 is a little bit of a heavier game. It's Brass Birmingham, and we do live in the UK, so we got used to saying Birmingham instead of Birmingham. But Brass Birmingham is at first I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this because it looks dry. I don't love the art, but there's a reason for the art because it's all like Industrial Revolution. So it's real dark and just kind of gloomy. It's very gloomy, the look of this game. But it is a really interesting game where you're putting down your boats and then your trains to connect up the little towns, to connect up the resources and kind of help to build the railway. And I guess you've told me that there is some kind of historical accuracy within it too, which I know is a selling point.
Yeah, I really like the history of that and how the railways really transformed this country. And it's amazing to have a game that captures that. But the mechanics of it are really interesting as well, particularly the interaction. Because there's certain things, like if you build coal stuff, and then the next person who uses coal has to go for the closer one. So even if I'm building it, I might have to use Shawn's coal, but then he might be happy that I am because it might flip his tile, which might be what he's looking for.
Yeah, you're building these little almost warehouses, I guess, that do different things. And you do want to flip them because that's how you score points later in the game.
Yeah.
And it's really tight resources too, which isn't something I always love, but does work well in this. But that is number 52.
51.
My number 51 is Imperial Settlers Empires of the North. And this one has a really cute look to it, which can be a bit deceptive, I think, because there's actually a lot going on with this one. First of all, each of the decks that you play with play incredibly differently. So that's already a selling point. I love the asymmetry of that. And you're using your cards and you got to gather resources to put your cards out. And there's a little bit of worker placement aspect because you get these discs that you can put out. And you can use your ships to go sailing and other workers to activate actions. But because of each of the decks playing so differently, it's very easy to play one, get a sense of it, want to play again to try and master it, and then move on to another one and keep trying and switching them out and see how they play against other ones as well.
Yeah, no, when you talk about the asymmetry, people talk about like decks playing differently. This is almost like you're playing different games sometimes, some of these decks. Like some of them are you're just gathering resource and some of them are you're just sailing. And we got the Japanese Islands expansion, and I was using one that's just about trading resources, which Jess did not like.
You were taking the things I wanted and giving me things I didn't want.
Very fair trades.
No.
All the time. Best for everybody. But yeah, so there can really be some interaction in this game as well. And I think you're right. The cuteness is definitely hiding a real sinister underbelly to this one.
Yeah, and the expansions have definitely made us play this a lot more too. They're great. Mm-hmm. That's my number 51.
My number 51 is a roll and write, one of my favorite roll and writes. It is Silver and Gold. And Silver and Gold, one of the most really inventive roll and writes that there is. And again, it's not actually a roll and write, it's a flip and write. But it's really creative because it's a deck of cards and you're writing right on the cards. And so each one of the cards represents an island, and you've got 2 islands at a time, and then there's a bunch in the middle. And each turn you flip over a card, and that's got a polyomino shape, and you use that shape to fill in a bit of one of your islands. And sometimes there are ways to combo that, and there are ways to score bonus points. But again, it is that collecting islands, and like I talked about with Explorers, I love that as a theme, and it's fun to write on the cards, and it's one of these like, why didn't anyone think of this? This seems, of course, this is a good idea to have a roll and write that's card based. I don't even know if anyone else has done it again yet, but it's a great idea, and man, does it ever play well.
It plays really well. It's not surprising because it's Phil Walker Harding. So again, a designer who's really great at making very accessible games.
Yeah, just simple, smart ideas, and like I said, this is one of my absolute favorite roll and writes. If you haven't played it, pick it up. And that was my 51. And that is it. That brings us to the halfway point. That is just about the end of the 50s. We're going to be kicking off the next one with number 50, and then we've got the top half of the list.
Thank you so much for watching and following along. As usual, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and hopefully we'll see you for the next one.